And kaboom.
So this is interesting because I was really thinking this was going to be a different episode, but I underestimated chat, and I thought I would get 1 in 2 weeks, but nope, I actually went with mine second. So yeah, so I thought it'd be appropriate, given the subject matter of the movie today, that I am sporting my good friend and yours, Smart Mark Sterling. He is the most famous professional wrestling lawyer on face planet Earth, wearing his T-shirt, and I have his pin here, which I showed last night as well. Why? Because I have a feeling Smart Mark's going to have a lot of business from everyone in this movie. So yeah, welcome to Popcast Movie Club here on the Popcast Network. This is episode 2, and we are talking about the 1985. I can't call it a classic because there's not many people I know that know of its existence. A very underrated gem, Moving Violations. So my name is Owen. I'm going to take you through lots of notes, proving that I could have written the wiki for this actual movie after I watched the movie again. Joining me as always, we have Ashley.
Indeed.
And we also have AJ.
Yes.
Now, backstory about this movie, Popcast Movie Club, for me at least, is going to be to revisit some of the movies that I've been wanting to talk about here for a long time, and this is a reason to do so. And plus, it's giving me another reason to watch these movies again, things that I used to watch all the time back in the day, and movies that I don't know if Ashley's ever seen, I don't know if Chad's ever seen, but I introduced AJ to a long time ago as well. Most of these movies, I think there's nothing that I'm going to throw out here that's not something that AJ has been either set to watch or forced to watch because of me. So yes, we're gonna get to that in a minute. So yeah, we're going to talk about moving violations tonight. So yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about. Before we get started, you want to make mention my history with this movie. This is a movie I remember watching like constantly when it was on HBO back in the day. And like AJ mentioned before, I actually did procure a VHS copy that was recorded directly from HBO. And if I remember correctly, this also contained Revenge of the Nerds, if I remember right. I think that was the double feature.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Revenge of the Nerds would have been the year before this, so they probably were playing around the same time.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. And if either way, I'd still remember Revenge of the Nerds VHS copy. So yeah, this is a movie I used to watch a lot. Everything from I really can't call it cameos, but I will say like the cast are a lot of really talented actors and actresses that went on to do big things in one way, shape, or form. And John Murray, sad pony. Needless to say, hey, if Bill did not exist in the world, John Murray would have been something, darn it. So,
Because you say that about the cast. Worth noting, there are, I think I counted 3 Oscar nominees in this,
yes, correct.
and only one of them had it at the time, but 2 would go on to do it. One of which is somebody that might as well be an extra, and Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah, we've got a lot of things to talk about. So yeah, that's my background to moving violations. And so keep in mind, the movies that I'm going to select are probably not going to be the easiest ones to find, as I'm sure if you tried to find them, you found out the hard way.
That's like I told you, I was genuinely shocked when I looked into it and saw that this actually has a Blu-ray.
It is crystal clear too.
Because the thing about it is, you've been talking about how it's underseen and how you discovered on HBO it was on your VHS and stuff like that. And it's the thing about this is, at the time I learned about this movie's existence from you, and I borrowed that VHS from you, was the only time I had ever known that it existed. And I was probably what, 14 or 15 at
Sounds
that
about
time.
right. Yeah.
And now du- double like my life has doubled now, and still to this day, I think you are the only person I've ever heard mention this movie. The only other way I've seen anybody else even know this movie exists is it's in Leonard Maltin's movie guide.
Oh,
That's
nice.
it. Every other thing I know about this movie or I've heard about this movie is strictly from you.
It's weird to think too. It's like I know that this is another one that has come up in conversation a long time ago. Obviously, AJ, we're talking about the Malcolm McDowell classic Angel 4 Undercover. So, needless to say, that's the one, and that's another movie that comes to mind as something that most people don't think about. But you know what? It's like it was an interesting concept for a movie, and I don't know. I sort of liked it back in the day, but it was a lot more than just like a typical Cinemax like softcore movie. It was actually something that had a really cool story to it, and I think that it's something that I know has been lost to time, unlike the other Angel Undercover movies, which probably don't matter. But yeah, the four, keep that in mind. Maybe another time, we'll see. So yeah, we're gonna get to moving violations, but first we have a live chat room. As always, welcome everyone. So Josie says, "Thanks for recommending this underseen comedy gem." You're very welcome. I'm glad I could broaden everybody's horizons. Actually, when it comes to this movie, granted, it's not like gonna win awards for anything, but I mean, I love this movie. I don't care. I will not apologize one bit. Funny thing is, I watched it when I had a cold, like one of the characters in the movie. Yeah, we learned really quick that Joan is a hypochondriac and went straight up into that story, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Does ask, who would you rather have as a driving teacher, the one from this movie or Mrs. Puff? So Dana Cannon would be the one that would, of course, pass everyone. So my non-driving self would be fine. But if we go with being Hank Halleck, I'm screwed every day from Sunday. And I think Mrs. Puff might go easier on me for reasons. So needless to say, you never know.
Because if you annoy her enough, you will just be given the assignment to say, "What I learned in bonus school today is," and only have 3 words left, and that's your whole. And then you pass.
And Halleck would just straight up whip my ass if I crossed him. So needless to say, there's always that. Brian says I'm finishing up Coda. Oh, nice. Fantastic movie. Josie says, fun fact on the trivia here, which of course we mentioned this. Of course, Don Cheadle's one of his first films as the Juicy Burgers worker. Josie brings up a couple things as well. She does bring the actual trivia facts here. Thank you for that. On the DVD commentary, the director Neil Israel says Michael J. Fox was going to play Dana Cannon, but 20th Century Fox said, nah, we're not going to do that.
That makes so much sense.
100%. Oh my god.
And this, I can actually see a semi-successful version of this movie that stars Michael J. Fox.
One of the DVD releases is a mock driver's ed book. Super cool. I wish I had this.
Somebody, for being moving violations, somebody went all in on it. If that exists somewhere.
Amazing. This booklet featured stills from various points of the movie, unique traffic laws from the U.S. and other countries, and the driving simulator was pole position. Yeah, this is very true.
Why that would have been in a traffic school, I have no fucking clue.
Mrs. Houck drives about as well as I do. And that's the fact that I don't even need these glasses really to see very well. Obviously, Loretta does. And at the end of the day, she was just... Well, AJ's watched me play video games when it came to racing before. He knows I drive exactly like that. So there you go. At least in a simulation form. Josie says in preparation for the movie, Neil Israel went to traffic school. Moving Violations released 9 years after Moving Violation in 1976. And which character's car did you want to drive? I can't drive, Josie, so everyone is in serious trouble if I was driving any of them. So, I think maybe I like Dana's landscaping truck, but the problem is I have a feeling it's probably like a stick shift, and I'd already be screwed with the driving anyway. I feel like it'd add more problems. Plus, there's plants everywhere, which may or may not be extremely illegal. So probably not an idea either. Like maybe Dad's gonna kill me guy. Maybe his like his BMW at the end. That's possible. But then again, that wasn't his. He stole it from the random guy at the valet. So that's a possibility too. I mean, the not Mirthmobile of Joan that came with the bowling balls, maybe not. So
I just love how he's driving around with a license that has Indiana Jones on it instead of himself.
Yep.
And he's playing a harmonica, and your response is, "I think those plants are illegal."
I think everything about Dana Cannon is illegal, including some plants that he may or may not be partaking in outside of camera view. So, real quick, this is hilarious because I said a long time ago that the synopsis I could have wrote myself because I made a lot of notes. This is actually what Wikipedia says the synopsis is. I want to go into this because I won't do this fairly often, but I'm going to here because with comedies it kind of seems like it allows for itself. Because with a player I came up with like notes and everything, but here it feels like I need to say something, so I'm going to. This film follows a group of people in Berks County, California. You can definitely tell it's supposed to be LA, 100%. And I definitely can tell where some of these things take place, even back in 1985. After being ticketed for numerous traffic violations and as a result losing their license, driving privilege, and the vehicles to impounding, ordered by Judge Nedra Henderson, which of course is Sally Kellerman, to attend a driving course in order to get their licenses and vehicles back. The assigned teacher for the course, Hank Halleck, which of course is James Keach, conspiring with the judge in order to execute a plan to ensure these offenders fail miserably at all costs so the corrupt duo can sell their impounded vehicles for their own personal gain. Wow, kayfabe, Wikipedia, really? The clues lead one of the traffic offenders, landscaper Dana Cannon, which is John Murray, to discover their scheme, and he enlists his fellow students to help him stop it. Well, that's all that we got from Wikipedia. And I make the Taylor Swift, Jillian reference from Bill and Ted every single time. So anybody can put stuff on Wikipedia. And it's true. But apparently not enough people did. Because even though it has a Blu-ray release, it has a crap Wikipedia synopsis.
Well, I have to draw attention to something really quick. Because I want to believe that this movie is secretly canon with another movie.
I want to go into that as well. It's a note ski I have too.
Are we thinking... Surely we're not thinking the same thing.
We're not thinking the same movie, but we are thinking of a movie that could be canon as well.
I mean, we could be thinking of the same thing, but I wouldn't think so. Because I don't know if you remember this movie well enough to know that... Well, you love this movie enough. Maybe you did notice and it stuck with you.
Yes. Go ahead.
James Keach in this. James Keach was in a movie a couple of years prior to this that is significantly more famous. Also playing a motorcycle cop.
It's in my notes.
Yeah, he's the motorcycle cop that pulls over Clark in Vacation after he ties the dog to the bumper. And that I kind of want to believe it's the same character because I don't believe he got a name in Vacation. So we can run with it.
He is literally listed on Wikipedia and also IMDb as motorcycle cop. and you know, it doesn't surprise me either. Yeah, that's a note I actually have here. And you talk about like canon for something. Neil Israel, of course, did Police Academy. And this movie feels like it could be like a lot of this stuff could be something that was left on the cutting room floor for a Police Academy movie that never got made.
100%. And you get that vibe all the way through. Like between the characters, the setting, and even the climax feels exactly like a Police Academy movie. For better and worse.
And I like the Police Academy series, and I have a feeling that we'll go into it at some point on this network. But hint, hint, wink, wink, smile, smile, nudge, nudge. But at the end of the day,
there's a really nice, like, Blu-ray box set of the Police Academy movies that I would like to get. But the only one I saw was imported in a region that does not suit me. So I need to figure that out.
I mean, the chief from is Robert Conrad, and he's actually not even credited here.
Yeah.
And it's funny.
One of the key characters in it, and he's not even credited. What the shit's going on with this movie?
Right, and you were telling me about there was an original Police Academy casting that ended up not happening. That would have probably ended up being George Gaines's character in Police Academy, the chief. But I mean, they went a completely different route. Kind of like we talked about a minute ago with Michael J. Fox, and also what I talked about a while back with Burt Ward and The Graduate. So,
by the way, you talked about bringing up canon to another movie.
yes.
If we're gonna run with James Keach being the same character in this and Vacation, are we also running with Conrad being the same character in this and Jingle All the Way?
Oh God, 100%.
I can't remember if he got a name in Jingle All the Way or not, but we can still run with.
Part of me feels that Don Cheadle's character went on to become. Is it Buck from Blooming Boogie Nights?
Yeah.
Super Stereo World.
Buck Slope.
He didn't work out at the burger bar, and then he got into his country.
It makes sense. It really does. He went from literally saying, "Good evening, can I help you?" serving burgers to serving burgers.
And then, coming full circle, if we remember, after the events of Boogie Nights, Buck Swope's life changes again in another food establishment. So, just full circle.
That's true. Well, again, before we get more into the movie, I do want to appreciate everyone that is joining us tonight, whether live or in archive, and checking out this movie if they've never seen it before. Like I said, it's a movie that probably most people don't know of, but I'm glad that you took the time to check it out, at least listening to my synopsis, which is going to basically be like highlighting everything that happens in the movie, and Ashley and AJ are going to look at me like I have 3 heads. But still, that's what we're going to do today. One thing I do want to mention right now, right off the top. So, this is something that is a trivia piece that I want to bring up that I don't think Josie will, is because the only reason I realized it is because I was paying attention to the credits. Now, I told you, AJ, so you don't count, so you know what I'm going to say. Ashley, were you paying attention to the credit sequence in Moving Violations by any chance? Or anybody in chat?
I know it randomly changed fonts.
That's not an incorrect statement. I'm talking about specifics.
You're talking about the end credits, right?
That is correct.
Oh. Yeah, because something caught my attention in the opening credits too.
We'll get to that in a minute. I think that'll be the next thing we go into, and then I'll go into literally spot for spot for the movie, just like I did in the Wayne's World review. Sorry in advance. So obviously, I was looking at the credits. I was listening to the extremely kick-ass Moving Violation song, which I love so much ever since I was a kid, and plus the version of I Feel Good by Arnold McCullin, the I Got You version of James Brown, but his version I love ever since I saw this movie for the first time. It's been stuck in my head. It's still stuck in my head, and I don't think it ever left, honestly. And Dana references that song twice, because when they're in the 0G chamber, he sings it again, but he sings kind of like a Bill Murray version of it, really. The best way to put it. I'm talking about the stuntmen on the movie. This is something that my Batman loving heart was a flutter of, because I noticed real quick the name Hubie Kearns popped up as a stuntman in the movie, and I was like, that's interesting. I wonder if Victor Paul's there too. And for those of you that are not in the know, I bet your brother is watching this video right now, screaming at his screen right now, saying the same thing I'm about to. But yeah, they were the stunt doubles for Adam West and Burt Ward in the Batman television series and movie. So I thought that was cool.
That makes sense, considering the editor is like a guy that did God knows how many silent films and farces from sort of like the 20s and 30s.
Oh, man. Josie just asked me a question that I can't answer on here. Josie asked me, which quote from the movie would you want on a t-shirt? I can't say it on here, but I will say Loretta's line about Halleck is one of my absolute favorite lines in the history of comedy. You know the line.
Oh, if Cliff Booth from Once Upon a Time was doing stunts for this movie.
Oh, that'd be cool. John Murray was also in Scrooged. Yeah, that was kind of like a duck soup.
I actually want to talk about John Murray and Scrooged in a little bit.
Okay.
Quote from the movie on the t-shirt.
Loretta Howe gets drunk during the movie, and
Oh,
Dana tries to rally everybody and says, "Let's get the real person. Let's get Halleck." And then she just yells out the
fuck 'em.
line, "Yep, rip his nuts off." And I was like, "Yes, if I could have any quote on this, I probably would put that on a T-shirt. I wouldn't know if I would ever wear it, but I still like." I do like Wink's line. Let's rent Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That'll relax you. That was always fun to me. Jennifer Tilly has been in a relationship with a professional Irish poker player named Phil Locke since 2004.
That makes sense, because isn't she a poker player also?
I believe so.
She dabbles, yeah.
So I have notes for everything. Basically, I just kind of went through everything, and with the comedy, I kind of
Also, if this Tom Walls person edited it, they must have edited it from the grave because they died in 1949. Thanks, Wikipedia. You might want to get the link correct.
Oh, that's horrible.
Actually, a dead person editing this perfectly explains that montage in the middle of the movie.
No.
Yeah, I like the montage. The montage is awesome. Thank you.
The credit I was gonna bring up was did anybody watching the opening sequence that was watching the credits see who the cinematographer on this was?
Oh, I can't answer this because you already told me.
Because keep in mind, this is fucking Moving Violations. This is just a police academy light movie from 1985.
Yes.
That nobody knows about.
Also correct.
See, the way you're talking about it, I'm guessing like this must have been one of their early things, and like now they've gone on to actually be. Even though I don't recognize the name, they've done things that I've probably heard of, and I've just never paid attention.
You better believe it.
Hang on, I'm going to the Wikipedia now.
No, don't blow the spot.
There's a particular director he's worked with a lot that he's since broken off with, but just thinking about the movie that he won his Oscar for, think about that he shot that movie and he shot this movie. This, among many other things, this guy's known for being a former frequent collaborator with Paul Thomas Anderson. Yep, the guy that shot Moving Violations shot There Will Be Fucking Blood.
Great.
Don Cheadle being the same character now makes even more sense.
Yes, of course it did. Of course.
Planets are aligning. It's great.
This is brilliant.
Josie said Peach was married to James Seymour.
What was that?
Josie says James Keach was married to Jane Seymour from 1993 to 2015.
Yeah, and he's this is obvious just by looking at him, let alone his name. Obviously, he's Stacy Keach's brother too.
Which she alluded to, and also makes further mention. It's interesting how Bill Murray and Stacy Keach's lesser-known brothers are in this movie.
Yeah.
Fred Willard is in this too. Of course, she's talking about him being in Guffman.
And what's actually funny is Meg Tilly was probably more well-known than Jennifer at the time this came out.
That's true.
I think Agnes of God was the same year.
Josie also wonders if PTA has seen this movie.
Oh, PTA likes Sandler movies, which makes me think PTA probably does like silly comedies. So that would make sense. And the whole being attracted to Maya Rudolph thing and having multiple children with her probably means he likes comedy.
Say so. Before I go into actual like flat out note skis on the movie, I will say this movie flows really well. To me, at least, it doesn't feel its length. It's an hour and a half, and we got to 32 minutes left to go by the time we get to Dana's trial, where he gets framed. And I felt like that hour just flew right by. Probably because I've seen it like a billion times, but I mean, still, that might be the reason why.
The first 15 minutes slogged for me. I just felt like, okay, we get the idea. Why are we needing to see every the problem that I had with this film is there were too many characters for me to give a shit about.
I mean, okay.
We introduced so many people, and then so many people, what about the Asian guy that was sat next to John Murray? Nothing.
And And I noticed there's two people I want to. I noticed that also with like where it feels like half the class is like extras, even though they still got intros.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's two in particular I want to elaborate on with Ashley's point.
Okay.
The first one being Fred Willard. I kept forgetting Fred Willard was part of the class. I felt like he was
I
only
thought he
there
was just outside trying to take advantage of these people that don't have their cars and like, you need tuning up. And then I realized,
That makes
oh wait, he sat
more
in there.
sense. That makes more sense. That Doc is a ringer, and he's literally there just like an ambulance chaser trying to illicit business. It makes sense.
Or if he actually secretly worked as part of the impound, and he would benefit from the cars from the impound.
I mean, he could have a deal going on with Judge Henderson. You never know. I mean, I don't think he's gonna work with Halleck though. He seems kind of more on the he seems like a lovable idiot, basically, the best way to put it. He seems like somebody that doesn't really mean any harm, but he also could be in some really shady stuff. Like I'm sure he's had like backroom like poker like the thing that Wallace Shawn does in Vegas Vacation.
There was another person that I had trouble with. And it's actually who's supposed to be one of the main characters.
Okay.
And this also perfectly ties into when Ashley said the beginning was a slog for him. I was gonna say that was the middle for me, and it was because of also this storyline. So Jennifer Tilly is basically just filler in this movie, is she not?
She doesn't really have. I mean, okay, I understand her point, and I think the stuff with her and Dana, like the zero G chamber, I think it's cute, and I think it's played off really well. But the problem I have is there's no reason why she should be in this class.
You know,
We don't know why. We don't get why she's in the class at all. She's one of the and featuring as well.
Yeah, she comes in like a Katana in Suicide Squad.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But the thing about it, the problem I have is, first off, we introduce her with a very clever joke.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like she's a rocket scientist and she's a rocket scientist.
Yep.
But then the fact that she works for NASA ends up being her only joke, and now she's just here to make out with Dana for seemingly no reason. Because
I mean, she kind of just is like really like interested in Dana like out of nowhere. The one thing I will say about it, even though this is this is obviously way before the fact, I do find it funny that one of the first conversations she has in the class is with Wink about Friday the 13th, which of course we know her horror future. We don't then, but it's interesting that later in life, obviously we go to her past as Tiffany in Child's Play movies.
I really love that conversation because you can tell when the movie came out. Because he's like, "Have you seen Friday the 13th?" And she's like, "No, I haven't." He's like, "Have you seen 2, 3, or 4?" And then he stops there.
Tightrope and Cujo.
Yeah. And but the other thing about that though is like, it's one thing when movies, especially comedies, just shoehorn in love stories seemingly for filler.
Mm.
And they do try to get creative with having the zero gravity scene, but then at the same time, the zero gravity scene loses me when their shirts start fucking. But
it's weird because it doesn't make any sense.
But the thing about it though is that you would think like, oh, she'll have another purpose. Like, it's not just that she's a one joke character; it's that she's a one purpose character. Because once they fuck, Jennifer Tilly's just a background player for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
The whole arc of her was
she's
just leading to
second
that.
listed in the credits, and like she's there for like 40 minutes in the middle, and the rest of it she's just like there.
But since he's our lead, should we stop for a second and just talk about John Murray in general?
I'm okay with that. I mean, I have a weird way of doing this, but I mean, we already went past it, so I'm good with that. Let's go.
Because he obviously was the lead in this, and then he was never a lead again.
Yes.
And when you see that and you hear that, your first immediate thought is, I wonder what the reason for that is. And the thing about him is, well, first of all, you can tell there's definitely a charm in Dana that's really supposed to be here that I don't think is there, and I think that's where a point is in the whole Jennifer Tilly plot, where it's like when I say that she starts making out with him for seemingly no reason, and then they have like a love story.
Mm.
I'm assuming the reason is his charm and his spontaneity, etc. Although, is why a love story would bloom there. But somebody brought up the fact that he was in Scrooged.
Yes.
And what we were talking about was how he's clearly playing a Bill Murray character.
100%.
Like when you like we were saying, the Michael J. Fox scenario seems like ideal for this movie. But then when you look at John Murray play him, it's very clear. It's like, oh yeah, I can also see this being a Bill Murray movie, which would be very different from a Michael J. Fox movie, but they could both exist realistically.
Definitely.
So the problem is that not only is he Bill's brother, but they sound exactly alike.
Mm.
And John clearly has the same pretty much exactly the same deliveries that he would have, but
For sure.
there is a Bill Murray-ness missing. The thing I wrote down was Bill Light, Lite.
Yep.
It seemed to. It sort of seemed to sort of like it was a hybrid of him and Belushi. You know,
Yeah,
he had the sort of dress style of Belushi, but the voice and the attitude of Bill.
and I think something that makes it make more sense that this didn't work out was that this movie is essentially him doing a Bill character, and it's not quite working out as well
Mm.
as say Bill would have.
Sure.
So fast forward 3 years to Scrooged, and in Scrooged, he's playing the anti-Bill. He's playing the nice character
Right.
to Bill Murray's, mean-spirited character, and he plays that part really. He plays the nice pure guy really well. And I think that may be another reason. Like that probably could have been a strength of his that he could have worked with, but it was. And this may not be a him thing. It could be like a studio thing or a casting thing where it's just like, oh, you're a Murray brother. We'll try to give you Bill Murray roles. Oh, it didn't work out this one time.
We're
We
done.
barely ever saw him again. So it's just kind of like a more of a unfortunate circumstance thing rather than anything he did wrong necessarily. That's my theory anyway.
That makes sense. I mean, I like the character Dana Cannon, but I do 100% like do see the Bill in him 100% like what it should be. Like if this is Bill Murray, I would get it 100% at this point. But this is the movie I grew up on, so this is something I have a lot of like not really thinking about that in the time, but thinking about it now, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it's one of those things where like you see somebody in a role because I've only seen this movie twice,
Mm.
which would explain my outlook probably. But with you, it would be like how once you see a movie enough times, and it gets ingrained in here forever. It's
Yep.
kind of really hard to break away from anybody being anybody else. I would think, if I had to guess.
Like I'll try to go through a couple things here. It's like we got Dana is basically like the antagonist through most of the movie, and he plays it well. Like his goal was to like make like Alec miserable, and he literally cost him his promotion because of a case of mistaken identity twice. That basically gets Halleck to actually do the class itself. I like it because Robert Conrad ends up on the end of the bad end of the stick both times. He gets his car destroyed, and then he gets pulled out from underneath the toilet.
Which does make you wonder how Halleck like has a job throughout
Yeah.
this movie.
Right. I do appreciate Dana playing taps on the harmonica when he was like walking away too. That was cool. So I guess I would try to get more like the Dana stuff and everything. So it's something I noticed as well that I don't know you really pick up on, and it's probably pretty obvious. Halleck is a Twitch, and it's bad, really bad, because they get to the fight towards the end, and there's gonna be a battle, and like Alex, like, okay, how do you want to do this? And he's basically trying to just like try to like get him as pissed off as humanly possible. And he knows he's probably going to die tonight because Halleck is going to kill him straight up on the actual grass. But he's like, I got a plan. And he's like, okay, fine. What do you want to do? You want karate? You want boxing? You want wrestling? No. And he's like, how about arm wrestling? And he's like, well, you know what? I was Western Division champion. And he's like, well, in his mind, you can definitely tell he knows he messed up. But he's Dana Cannon, so he's always got a way of work around this. And what does he do? He kisses Halleck and runs for his life.
Yeah, because I noticed how you mentioned that the twitch gets worse as it goes.
Oh God, yeah. Especially when Cannon passes the driving test. It's like, Cannon, pass.
It's like it gets to a point where he can't even say his name without twitch.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, I want to go into everybody like as much as I can here. Like I said, trying to. Then of course we get to the. Granted, we're getting way ahead of ourselves, but the final piece of information. I wrote it down because I love the way it's actually written. Dana Cannon was sentenced to traffic school 5 more times. Finally, in desperation, the county made him the instructor. Now no one fails the course.
I'm not sure where the productivity is in there.
Yeah.
There really isn't. It basically tells you don't want to drive in Birch County, California, even though it doesn't actually exist.
The ending is like the most anticlimactic thing, and it probably just tells you more that the police system is shit. Because as soon as they pull away, they all get violations again, despite having picked up their cars, because they're all trying to get the recommended minimum amount of citations, because that's what's decreed from up on high. So it's like, you made me sit through 90 minutes for nothing? Great.
No, that's not it at all. It's literally basically to show that no matter how you feel like everything is going to go the way it is and everything's going to be all right in the end, everybody's just a mess up. And that's it. Robert Conrad's driving by, and all of a sudden, one by one, everybody has been pulled over. And not everybody, because obviously you never see Jennifer Tilly. But I mean... She just, like KJ said, she just kind of disappears. Yeah, I want to talk about a couple things.
I forgot. I had one more thing about
Dana.
About Bill Murray.
Okay.
As if it's not like enough that you can already see so much Bill Murray in him. There's a particular scene that I felt like didn't help this at all. Do you get vibes from the bathroom scene where it's Murray and Keach, and like Keach is confronting him in the bathroom, is almost identical to Warren Oates confronting Bill Murray in the bathroom in Stripes? It's like the same scene.
Oh wow, yeah, 100%.
You guys are. He's trying to do his own thing. You guys are not doing him favors.
Good lord. Speaking of the bathroom scene, we'll get into Loretta Houck in a little bit. But yeah, like basically she's sitting there the whole time watching this, what ended up being a murder happen before her eyes. Because Halleck is like, I love the delivery. He's literally like, I hate your ass. And I was like, back in the day, that delivery was like, why? Why do you hate him so much? Why are you such a hateful person, Alex? Seriously, man. And it's like, Dana's just trying to be fun-loving and everything. So you just watch yourself, I'll crush you and everything. And like the whole time, Mrs. House just watching, using the bathroom because she thinks she's in the ladies' room. And of course, she gets the final line, why is my back all wet?
Major props to that actress, by the way. She committed to this whole movie.
Freaking fantastic. And it's funny because I think I want to go into actually Loretta and Emma Jean right now. So obviously, if you're unaware, speaking of the West Coast, Nedra Voles, which of course is going to be Loretta Houck, she was a spokesman for Jack in the Box, which everybody knows. Clara Peller, Emma Jean is the Where's the Beef from Wendy's. So two commercial fast food, I can't say icons, but personalities starring together in the same movie. It's very much like the Cannonball Run, stuff like that.
Okay.
I honestly never put that together.
Nice.
Never. The only thing I remember Where's the Beef from is when she's randomly at WrestleMania 2, like she's been taken hostage by the bloody Iranian mafia. Where's the beef? Where's the
She
beef?
says it when she's walking out of not LAX. She actually says basically, "Where's the beef?" And it sounds like she's saying, "Where's the beef?" But I can't really tell what she's saying because you can't really understand her very well, and the volume ski doesn't work very well on the TV. So needless to say, it's kind of like I couldn't tell anyway, and I can't blame a thunderstorm on it this time. But I mean, I thought that was interesting, and of course, it's immediately mentioned Loretta can't see anything. She thinks that the black driver is like Imogene with a tan and everything, but that's 1995. That's how it worked. And she got in the back seat of the wrong car, and she ended up getting the other seat of the other car, and she sees a dog, and she just can't do anything. And of course, she ends up on the tarmac, and that's how she gets pulled over. She thinks the planes are buses. I thought that was interesting.
You mentioned the driver joke. This is another one of those movies that's chock full of well, this joke didn't age well, did it?
Oh my god, no. A lot of this stuff doesn't age well.
Pretty much everything that's directed at Morris for the first half hour probably doesn't fly.
Yeah, the fact that she got called sir a couple of times, like Scotty, we'll talk about Scotty in a minute, but Scotty does it, and then Dana does it, and everything, and of course, she thinks that the fertilizer is Coke, and of course she sniffs it, and she licks it, and that doesn't work well for her either. And of course, there's the sexual tension with her and Halleck too, which of course they allude to as well. And of course, then we end up with the weird.
Yeah, why did everybody under the sun want Halleck's dick?
I don't know. Maybe it was the bondage gear.
It's the mustache.
I don't know. Maybe
it's that mustache. It's like Tom Selleck in Magnum PI. Nobody gave a shit about his crime fighting skills. It's the mustache.
It's the Jake Dr. Stakar thing all over again.
That means J. Jonah Jameson is rolling in it.
I buy that.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah, Halleck literally grabs for his gun. He's so mad at Dana at one point. I think, and it happens twice because it happens regular time. It happens during the montage. And I like how when Halleck walks in, because Dana was trying to work everybody. He's like, "I'm the teacher," and now he's like, "All right, everybody breathe." The next thing you know, Halleck walks in. He's like, "Sit down, Mr. Cannon," and he sees Spencer's kids just chilling there. He's like, "What are?" He's like, "They're my kids. I can't take care of them." And he's like, "Keep them quiet," and that's all he says.
I think Lorraine was the first character we were introduced to that I was like, the film would be better off if she was dead.
Dear Lord.
Because it's like, you're such a liability. Get off the fucking road. Dear God.
Oh, it's funny because they do the gimmick with the car getting stuck on the actual train tracks and everything. And
yeah.
It's like they realize Loretta's in the car, and Dana's like, "Oh God, we're dead."
That's a good joke where they push the car away from the train track and it gets hit by a truck. That's a good joke.
I like that.
I appreciate that.
The whole movie, I basically I was writing notes and everything for it, and it was funny because we'll go back to Loretta and everything with the fact that they teach her how to use the red flares, and she pulls off the wrong end, it's like the gag that you normally have with the grenade. How instead of throwing the pin and then tossing the grenade, you toss the grenade and throw the pin.
That's hilarious. Because I was thinking about the reversed rocket launcher, and the reason we both went there is because we're both thinking of In the Army now.
That's exactly right.
We were just thinking of two different gags from the same movie.
Love that movie. That's going to come up on this channel at some point. And of course, because it's in perfect Blu-ray, you see the Halleck just straight up pisses himself. And he just stands there like no selling it. And of course, Dana's line, when the going gets tough, the tough get going in their pants.
Yeah.
Which again, it's a funny joke. It really is.
There are actually a few good gags in this that I wanted to single out.
Please
If
do.
we're just talking about the jokes in general.
Yes.
But what I found, well, a couple I want to point out is one at the very beginning. I like the casket gag, and the reason that I like it is for a reason that I typically wouldn't like a joke like that. But I thought this was quite funny, where they took it. It's one obvious joke, but the way they took it the extra mile is what I appreciated. Where it's like when the car is out of control, and then we cut to a funeral. It's like we know what's gonna happen. He's gonna run into the casket, but that extra bit they put in where it just flies into the already dug grave, and they just say "fuck it."
Yeah, they shrug their shoulders and start doing it. Like,
I do want to talk about the Scotty thing because it's one of my favorite jokes too, and it's funny because it's like it starts out, everybody is like totally bored with his puppet show, and it's like they don't care, and they're so bored they unhook the trailer, and the next thing you know, the trailer just starts rolling down the street, and the next thing you know, it goes into traffic. They go past the Business McGee standing there, and he's like, "Hey, is that the number 12?" And he's like, "No, that was just a puppet stage." Like it was something they've seen before. This is fictitious LA, so I guess it makes sense.
Speaking of things we haven't seen before or have seen before, yeah, that was he's Rat in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah.
These might be the only two things I've ever seen him in. They're certainly the only two things I remember seeing him in. I think he won a Tony, like even pre Fast Times, for like a Woody Allen play or something. And then I only know him from like these two movies.
I laughed out loud it's funny because I knew it was coming because I've seen the movie a billion times, and you see the funeral and he's like, "Joey never hurt nobody," and everybody's crying, and next thing you know, and you can hear Scotty yell, "Get out of the way, get out of the way," and next thing you know, he just crashes in and hits the casket. And the great thing is, like, the guys are just digging it up like you mentioned before. Next thing you know, they're like
and I talked about the reason I like that joke is because they kind of put in just a little extra.
Right.
There is a joke that I like, and I don't like that they elaborated a little more. Where it's like, it's one of those cases of them doing a great joke but then explaining it unnecessarily, which sucks because it's a really funny joke. When she says, "That's my sister," and the car pulls up and it's a nun.
Yeah, of course.
That's something right out of Airplane.
Oh my God, yes.
But for some reason, it really, really bugs me that she elaborates and she says, "That's my sister," and when it's revealed it's a nun, she elaborates and says, "She's a sister," and it's like, no, we got the joke. We don't need the second line. It's so much funnier when it's only acknowledged, "Oh, that's just my sister," and it's an actual nun.
Yeah, it's like a bad Nicki Minaj lyric. Anyway, just obviously saying what we're just seeing. Get into chat here. Sorry, everyone. I was trying to keep track here. Brian says, "My Oscar movie marathon of 2021 is now officially over." Josie says, "Bringing up Michael J. Fox again, Wendy Jo Sperber," which we'll talk about Joan in a few minutes, died in 2005, sadly. Linda McFly in Back to the Future.
Yeah, there's a lot of people in this that aren't with us anymore. It's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm.
Especially given the fact I grew up with this movie, it's weird to think about too. We'll talk about that. The story "Moving Violations," written by Sharon and Paul Borston, trying to see if they were married or brother and sister. She couldn't find out which one. Josie also mentioned Ned Eisenberg died on February 27th later this year. He was in Last Man Standing, $1 Million Baby.
Yeah, hold on. The one you didn't mention.
Going with that, so.
Sally Kellerman died on February the 24th.
Oh.
So practically within days of Ned Eisenberg.
Yeah, Josie mentions Willard E. Pugh, which of course is Jeff, the dad gonna kill me guy.
Yeah.
That's what I call him in my notes. No relation to Florence. Which movie character would most likely pass or fail the course? Rick Dalton, Cliff Booth, Ryan Gosling in Drive, Ricky Bobby, James Bond, or Batman? Oh my God.
Well, Rick Dalton wouldn't last. I would say, well, that's the thing is like, a lot of those people drive like maniacs, so that's hard to say too. They definitely get into the class.
I think Ricky Bobby would actually pass the actual final course that Halleck creates at the end.
Yeah, I can. As long as he's not blindfolded, he'd do it well.
100%.
I think the driver as well, though.
Oh, the driver, 100%.
Gosling's driver. He feels like a driver that when he hits his marks, he hits them and he hits them perfect.
Stuntman Mike would probably do well too.
Yeah, I was gonna say if we're bringing Ryan Gosling's driver into this, Baby Driver would have to come up as well.
El Gort's driver, yeah, it's 100%. You were literally reading my mind right now when I said that. That's what I was thinking too.
Because I was thinking about the reverse and turn maneuver he does in Drive, and how it's the exact same thing at the beginning of Baby Driver, and it's like both of them could do this well.
Right. So Brian says on off subject, but Owen told me to do this, so I agree with Dune for film editing and original score, Drive My Car for international feature, Coates for supporting actor. But I think that should have won for No Time to Die for sound, Flea for documentary, animated feature for both. Yeah, that's not right. Kristen Stewart for actress, Tragic Macbeth for all three it was up for. Imagine Paul Atreides in The Course, Ashley and AJ, would he pass? That's for Josie, from Josie.
Paul Atreides taking this class?
That's apparently what Josie is mentioning.
Does he operate vehicle?
Oh dear God.
He knows how to do the sandwalk.
Yeah.
But I don't think that sort of precision would be the same thing, so probably not.
I could see Leo Atreides possibly doing well here.
So Brian alludes to more of his lineup: Drive My Car for adapted and director, King Richard for original and supporting actress for Anjanae Ellis. The top 10, at least the best: number 10, West Side Story; 9, Nightmare Alley; 8, Belfast; 7, Don't Look Up. Take a shot. Yeah, 7, Don't Look Up; 6, Power of the Dog; 5, Coda; 4, Licorice Pizza; 3, Dune; 2, Drive My Car; and 1, King Richard. It's interesting.
Ow.
Josie says SpongeBob would totally fail this course. The driver girl from Drive My Car would pass with flying colors. And moving violations would have made a great versus with License to Drive.
That's exactly what I was thinking when we were talking about it earlier. When I said that Michael J. Fox would have been perfect in this, I was also thinking like it would be like Michael J. Fox doing License to Drive before Corey Haim did License to Drive.
And you got that, and the movie that, like, it's not really the same thing, but the same like type of movie. The movie that kind of comes to mind as well is One Crazy Summer. My Bobcat love had to shine out there too, so. Not the same type of movie, but like I can see them like existing in the same universe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll get into Scotty here. So yeah, you did allude to Stephanie here, honestly, and it's weird because the gimmick of her is she's very laid back and reserved, but then we find out that she has a punk side, and now Scotty shows up at the club to try to meet her there, and the next thing you know, like he sticks out like a sore thumb at this club scene.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about how fucking creepy this storyline is.
It's weird because you don't think about it until you get to the punchline at the end. Because there is no punch. You don't know this. There's no knowledge of this until we get to the actual final part of it. And then it just disappears and it's gone.
Yeah. And it don't work.
Because what else can you do?
It don't work because she looks about 32.
Yeah, I think she was Nadine Vandervelde was what, like 20? I looked it up shortly after. I think she was like 23 or 24 or something.
Mm-hmm.
So it just doesn't work. The more ironic thing, having now looked her up on Wikipedia, she's responsible for God knows how many episodes of Roly Poly Oly.
God.
She wrote and like produced them. Like, you know, I'm pleased something good came from her career, rather than whatever the hell her role was.
She was involved in like a bunch of kids shows, wasn't she? I just kind of glanced at her page, but
yeah, but that's like from what I saw, it's like she was involved in 65 episodes of that. So that was sort of like,
I mean,
her bigger
We
thing.
we all know her magnum opus was Critters, obviously, but
Yeah. But yeah, Miss Spider's Sunny Patch Kids, or Sunny Patch Friends, whatever you want to call it. Little Charmers. That's as like producer or consulting producer and whatever. She did 10 episodes of Donkey Kong Country. DK! Donkey Kong!
Okay. So that was one off the rails. So
well, there
basically,
was
for all intents and purposes, she gets Scotty to steal a car. And it's like you can tell that Scotty's not the type of person that's gonna do anything like me. It's like something that you would never you couldn't imagine like me stealing a car. And you do crazy things sometimes for things. So at the end of the day, it's like some people are like that, and I know because we know our own. But at the end of the day, it's like he literally stole the car, and I'm sure this is not his anticipation for the day, and it was also not his intention to be getting ready to get down and dirty, and next thing you know, knock knock knock, dad's on the door, and it's like, okay, this is I gotta run. But then the bomb is dropped, and we find out she's 15, and she's standing there with her, like, she has her Clash posters which flip to the sound of music, and then she's like standing here with her stuffed animal. She's like, "Hi, Daddy," and next thing you know, she sees Scotty and is like, "I'll kill you," and it chases him for the rest of the movie.
so in another universe, we know who her dad is, right?
Say it.
Mr. Benning,
Yeah, 100%. Oh my
Michael,
god.
Michael Rooker and Mallrats for sure.
Oh, most definitely.
I was expecting the better punchline, which would be considering how we saw her sister was a sister. When she said my father come out, he actually comes with like a dog collar. He's an actual priest.
Man, that would have been that would have been funny.
That was a good one too.
I would have laughed at it then, rather than wait. She's 15, and the police don't know it's a fake ID. I'm actually looking into potholes rather than actually looking for jokes.
Well, I don't do that. I grew up with this movie. I like it, but I don't care, Ashley.
I know.
Well, here's the thing: is when we were going through the jokes and the ones that I liked, there were a few more I wanted to bring up, and it's not that they're great jokes, but there was something in particular that still impressed me about them.
Okay.
There's a few of these, but there were jokes where they happen, and then I think, oh, I've seen that joke before. It was in this movie or this show.
Sure.
But then it occurred to me, every time that happened, Moving Violations actually predates all those movies and shows.
Exactly.
Yeah, a lot of them are poorer versions. Like the first one that happened was the Fred Willard joke, where when a Joe comes out and he does the whole thing where he's talking and she's misinterpreting everything, is basically the joke in My Cousin Vinny when he first gets to the prison and he's saying like, you're gonna get fucked one way or the other, and it's a whole double entendre scene.
Yeah.
Which is obviously much more well written in My Cousin Vinny, but it's like the fact that it's the same joke and this actually came first kind of surprised me when I thought about it. And then there is the whole joke with Wink, where obviously a big problem with this movie is not only do a lot of these characters not get too much time, so many of them are just one joke in every scene. And Wink's joke is that he's obsessed with horror movies and gore.
Yep.
But something triggered in my mind when he said what you were talking about. Oh, come on over, we'll watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Anybody remember Summer School?
Absolutely. 100%.
Where there's literally a character named Chainsaw that's obsessed with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and it is also a class setting.
100%.
It feels like the exact same joke, and weirdly enough, this one came first.
Yeah.
Mind you, Chainsaw is funny in much other ways in Summer School than just he's obsessed with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. He's just a generally funny character.
Oh yeah.
The tension breaker thing always makes me laugh. And another one was when they're in the class and they have to watch the harsh education video on what happens. And
What?
my immediate thought was, if anybody watched or watches Rocco's Modern Life,
Yes.
you'll remember when Rocco went to driving school and they had to watch a very gruesome movie called Red Concrete. Sure enough, that's the joke that's here, and sure enough, this one actually did it first.
And it's
like
fun
I,
too.
like I said, I don't think Moving Violations necessarily is the better version of any of these jokes, but it's just so interesting to me that all of these jokes I've seen in other places, and but yet this one did it first. It's something that I can say.
Oh, I got to mention a couple more things in chat real quick before we go any further. So Brian's going to continue here. Personal lineups 5-1. Adapted screenplay: Dune, Power of the Dog, No Time to Die, Coda, Drive My Car. Original was Encanto, Spencer, Licorice Pizza, Worst Person in the World, King Richard. Supporting actress: Dunst, Leah Sado, Miura, Hunter, Ellis. Supporting would be
That
Malik.
I'm assuming is that Leah Sadu for No Time to Die?
Yeah.
Okay.
Malik, Hines, DeJesus, Coates,er, and Lai. Movie, yeah. Right.
Wait, what was number one there?
Lie.
For worst
For
person
worst
in the
person.
world.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't see it, but everybody's entitled to their opinion. Heim, Lawrence, Jones, Reinsive, and Stewart for actress. Buy one, rent one, lose one. Actors from this movie have been in Liar, Liar, Last Man Standing, Back to School, Best in Show, Waiting for Guffman, Scrooge. Obviously, you kind of hit the nail on the head, Josie. Obviously, one of my favorite movies is actually on that lineup. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's do this real quick before we move any further.
You're gonna have to say those again.
Liar, Liar, Critters, Last Man Standing, Back to School, Best in Show, Waiting for Guffman, Scrooged.
Oh my god.
It's tough.
Oh shit. Whenever I watch Back to School, it's only in pieces.
Right.
Like I feel like it has a lot of funny scenes, but I don't know if it comes together. So, wait, Last Man Standing, is that the Bruce Willis movie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that. Well, I remember not liking that one, but I also have no memory of it. I might go ahead and oust Back to School, and then the top two would be Guffman and then Scrooged.
Okay. Ashley, go.
I get rid of Back to School because I haven't even heard of it. I probably rent Best in Show, and Scrooge would be my buy.
It's tough. There's a lot of movies on here that I would rent because obviously there's no other answer for me for buy other than Best in Show. It's my favorite Chris Guest movie by far. Speaking of that, speaking of Chris Guest and speaking of Spinal Tap, we lost the drummer from Spinal Tap today. Rick Drazen, I believe his name.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean now. Wow. Okay.
Get more information while we do this. Yeah, so my rent is probably going to be tough. I guess I would have to. I was never a Critters guy because it wasn't really my type of movie back in the day when I saw it. So I'm gonna have to chuck it, and I'm gonna have to. Well, I mean, the smart Mark Sterling in me is back. Yes, the GD pen is gray.
I really like as soon as Liar Liar was said, I was like, oh, that's definitely making the top 2. And then they got like really good as they went. And it's like, shit, I really want to. Liar Liar will be getting a video at some point because it's amazing.
And so will Chris Guest movies. Keep that in mind for another time. So Brian's lead actor, Cumberbatch, Decap, Denzel, and his went really. So his Nishijima, and then Craig. Director Hamaguchi, Denny, Green, Lorraine, Fukunaga, and Best Picture is Power of the Dog, Macbeth, Worst Person in the World, Coda, Licorice Pizza, Dune, Drive My Car, King Richard, Spencer, No Time to Die. Congratulations, Brian. You are a Bond mark, and I did not know that.
That is an unexpected turn of events, and I think what makes that even funnier. There was a video recently where we jumped the gun, and Brian accidentally found out the ending.
Yeah. He said the reason why it's number 1 is because it's the only film he applauded at the end. My definition of a masterpiece.
That is unexpected.
So, we get back into moving violations. So nice little Oscar talk for a minute. Joan's character is a hypochondriac, and I think it's kind of a lame joke, but I still thought it was funny that everybody at the all the people were set up like pins, and when the bowling balls kept falling out, that it hit the people and they just like went everywhere like pins do, and they made the bowling. Kind of a lame joke, but I thought it was funny. And then of course the envelope.
This might sound like an insult because you know that I hate this movie. But since you brought it up earlier, yeah, it felt like something out of Cannonball Run or something.
Yeah.
The only one of the bowling balls, the one that I liked was the cantaloupe melon being $97. That was like...
Sit on Grandpa's lap. Oh.
But yeah, Hans Moleman did it better. I know it was afterwards, but fuck it, Hans Moleman did it better.
Yeah, I'll give you that. So it's the way that it's covered up with the whole time. Everybody knows that he called it like he's Doc. He has a clinic, and Joan is hearing these things and completely confusing everything. And of course, she ends up doing everything that he tells her to do, and she doesn't even bat an eye on these things. Like, sure, let's drink a bunch of Crisco, and let's lube myself up with Vaseline, and let's run on the highway for about 10 miles. Like, that doesn't make any sense to a normal, sane person. But it works for me because it's funny. But the best part is when Manny, Mo, and Jack are looking up her behind, and they're just like, like they don't even know what to say right now.
Yeah, ironically enough, she seems like a person that should probably be under constant observation.
Yes, 100%.
Taking the way she takes things that literally.
Yeah. So
I think that's what I was talking about. Where I feel like my cousin Vinny did the joke better was because he figures it out before the scene's over,
right?
And it literally becomes her entire character. This misunderstanding.
So we talk about the Don Cheadle cameo here. So yeah, we mentioned what happens. All of a sudden, Wink was like pushing the cars. And the next thing you know, 9 cars are now together. And one by one, they go through the Juicy Burgers drive-thru, and Don Cheadle is like, "Good evening, how can I help you? Good evening, how can I help you?" It actually kind of reminds me of, even though later in life it would be World Wrestling Federation, one moment from Beyond the Mat.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's an intentional mirror of the Don Cheadle scene later at the end during the climax when they're all running in, and what's the woman saying over and over again? Like, do you have an appointment or something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't go in, you don't have an appointment. You can't go in, you don't. Even when it's the other, like, foreign police officers or whatever that are part of the thing.
And then we get the climax of the movie where it's a cluster world order and everything, and like all of a sudden, I think it's like kind of a throwaway joke is like the guy is just asking for backup. I don't know, like the one random cop is asking for backup because this is when Wink and Jeff have stolen the car to pick up the dad at the airport and then drop him off quickly and then bring the car back. But when that happens, they go a little bit too fast and they go to get pulled over. And he's like, needing backup. The next thing you know, of course, all the police from the convention are after the gang at this point, and now they're all behind him. Like it's like this cinematic moment. And he's like, "Oh, ask for help. You actually get it here. That's great."
That the dad was problematic for me because half the time I was thinking it was James Earl Jones.
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, yes.
Because we just kept seeing from like the side. It was like a Mexican lucha libre match like I watch over the weekend where they're like nearly unmasked and they have to leap like cutting away because they don't want to show their face too much. You know, and that's what it felt like with him. It's just like we get such like quick glances and whatever. It's like, is it James Earl Jones? Is it Vader? Is it Vader? Is it Vader? Oh wait, we'll see his face clearly when he gets out of his side of his house. Oh wait, it's gone. Is it Vader?
Anyway, wrong Vader. Rest in peace. The thing is, it's great because I like how it just gets crazy and crazier and crazier. And Halleck takes the jacket and he grabs the ski mask and he tries to frame Dana for robbing the convenience store. And of course, the guy that was working at the convenience store is the one that's at the police station at the end of the movie. Oh yeah, that's him. That's the guy that did it. It's like, no. They're like, arrest that guy. And and of course, Judge Henderson is trying to, use her feminine ways to get out of a jam. And yep, she's going to jail too. So all the baddies end up losing in the end, which is great. But it's great because all of the gang end up losing in the end too in the long run.
Nobody wins.
Especially not those four runners at the Founders Day parade. My God, they got mowed over.
You could tell they were really, really trying to relive Police Academy as much as they could. The climax is right out of a Police Academy movie.
It is a straight up Police Academy movie without the Police Academy cast. And for me, that's a good thing. But I can see where you would come from there.
It makes me wonder whether this is the sequel that he wanted to make, because of course he never did write another Police Academy. He just did that first one. Him and his writing colleague. They did all these like sort of other things and whatever.
Well, as we transition to the end of the show here, Brian says, "I'm not even a Bond guy. I really was surprised at it. If AJ's wondering, no, I didn't feel cold when I watched Spencer."
That could just be a me thing.
Maybe.
Is it?
So I can only imagine how Vinny and my cousin Vinny would be in the same room doing a court case with Sally Kellerman as the judge, says Josie.
That I'd be interested to see. He's not going to fall for it because he's got Marissa Tomei at home. He's not falling for anything.
That is a fair assessment. And Josie gets the last question here. Which wrestler would you like to see in this course? Bob Holly. He is a driver after all, so it does make sense.
For the style of movie it is, I think Harvey Whippleman would be better.
Sean Waltman.
I think Harvey Whippleman would be better because he feels like that sort of like uptight guy that would get a lot of parking or moving violations or whatever.
Interesting. So, as a general consensus, obviously, I love this movie. It's absolutely hilarious, and it has its flaws, of course, but it's something that I've enjoyed throughout the years, and I enjoyed watching it again, and it's still just as laugh out loud funny as it always has been to me. Ashley, for seeing this for, I'm guessing, the first time, what was your final interaction with the movie? Your reaction?
Police Academy meets Porky's, but shit. Although it is not the worst film that I've had to see in preparation for the 3 films that we've got coming up. I'm looking at you, Kenneth Branagh.
Oh, that's unique.
We'll talk about that in 2 fucking
Oh, yeah.
weeks.
We'll
Yeah.
get there.
By the way, I think I totally made a mistake. I had the weirdest thing happen,
Oh,
and I think I said it, but I may have cut out just enough that I didn't get corrected. So, the whole idea of Branagh's Sleuth remake
Okay.
is that Michael Caine carries over. He starts off in one role in the original, and then he's the other role in the remake. Um, I don't, and that seems so obvious, but for some reason, my mind convinced me that Anthony Hopkins was the Olivier part in the remake, and I don't know how that started because obviously it's gonna be Kane, and I
did
saw
you
it when
what?
it came out.
Did you watch The
I don't,
Dresser with Sir? With him playing, Sir, and the Ian McKellen as the dresser? Like,
He just set himself up for a line right now. Granted, we're like 17 days away from it, but the only thing that comes to mind, Ashley, is that's got to be Kane.
I've still got that video of that one kid when Kane came back with like the Iron Man style, well, the welding mask, and the kid just like, it came with a mask, it came, holy shit, like.
That's the go home for this show. Brian says I couldn't find this movie anywhere. Brian, it had a Blu-ray release somehow.
so I guess so you're a big fan. Ashley isn't.
And you're
I
indifferent.
can't say that I'm in the middle because obviously I have more problems with it than things that I like. But like I was saying before, the thing that I like about this is one of the, like, when you look at Siskel and Ebert and why they were so popular and why they were so magnetic to watch. The most fun episodes of Siskel and Ebert was when they had completely opposing opinions,
Certainly.
and they just had to duke it out. And it's like, if this happens, like at least a few times throughout this, where we kind of don't agree and we're on separate pages, it could be really fun. As long as there's not hostility, like when I wanted to choke you out over Dune. Like,
Don't get me wrong as well. I don't like absolutely hate it. There are elements that I think are sort of pretty smart, but I just think some of the humor just feels very just like knockoff Porky's and Police Academy, and I think they did it sort of generally better.
And I liked Police Academy growing up. And obviously, you know how big of a Bobcat mark I am. And I really want to talk about Bobcat on this network, and I'm going to eventually. But at the end of the day, this is the movie that started it for me. Like, this is what I saw before
Yeah.
moving. Before I take a shot, before Police Academy. And this is something that I grew up watching even before I knew what Police Academy was. And even after I knew what Police Academy was, I still watched this movie. I still went back to it. So, Brian says, I can find Sleuth here on YouTube. And Josie says, I'm excited to watch Sleuth. Yep.
Yeah.
I understand completely.
If you want a better quality Sleuth, archive.org is your friend. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. I'll get to that later.
The one that's on YouTube, I think, is like 240p. I'm like, no. No.
Well, Josie asked when the next Hangout Q&A episode is. We don't have an answer to that, but I'm sure it'll probably be soon. I mean, we could always do Popcast Movie Club and Q&As each 2 weeks, maybe? If you want to do a double shot every single week.
I mean, we could have a sort of, like, I mean, after we talk about the stuff, that's where, like, some of the Q&A stuff can come in. We can go for sort of probably...
No. No. That's how the show goes way too long.
No, but I'm saying with restrictions, like, we only go, like, 30 minutes or whatever.
That's not a possibility, and you know it just as I do. We've done this for how many years, Ashley? I will say, honestly...
I'm willing to sort of, like, turn chat off If you know, if it gets beyond a certain point, it's like chat will be disabled. Like,
No. I think that might potentially work, but stay tuned. So we might be able to do maybe a Q&A on one day and then do the PMC the next day, or do the PMC one day and then do a Q&A the next day. So every 2
right.
weeks
Yeah.
we would do one day after another in one way, shape, or form. Potentially. No guarantees, but right now that's something that's floating in my head right now. So now you brought it up. If everybody agrees, that is.
And I'm curious what Josie's thoughts are on The Northman. Are we going to be getting those?
Yeah, I'm sure Josie will be doing one of her reviews very soon about The Northman, like she did with Everything Everywhere All at Once.
She's still in chat, so
Oh, hey.
maybe we
Oh,
get
yeah.
a tease in chat.
Yeah,
in a
yeah.
minute.
Owen, you want to talk about everything everywhere all at once? Do you want it? Are you leaving? Are you...
Funeral Grey will be out by water parks very,
Oh,
very
shit.
soon. Stay tuned for that.
Dune has a sequel, everybody. It's called Everything Everywhere All at Once.
I have high def now. I have a kitty shirt. I will wear it next podcast. So yeah, that's the show. Josie says, I like the idea. So do I. I think that's what we're going to roll with. So we're either going to go Sunday and Monday, or we're going to go Monday and Tuesday. Every 2 weeks. So next week is nothing. After, we're doing Sleuth, and we're going to pick between me and AJ's movie for 2 weeks later.
Yeah,
Ever since Ashley picked Sleuth in the first video, I've been excited. I can't wait to talk about Sleuth.
Fun.
I can't wait to talk about the only time we're going to talk about the remake, because I don't think any of us are going to pick it any other way. So I'm shoehorning that in. It's sort of 2 in 1 because fuck it.
Yeah, I guess I'll do that too.
Oh, right.
Expand on this issue.
Josie says, I enjoyed The Northman. It was very entertaining, but it fell into some cliches by the end, and I hated Nicole Kidman's fake accent. That's fair. Yeah, so stay tuned. It's either going to be not 2 weeks from... Let's see. Let's look into the schedule, because I can do it right on camera, because that's what I do. So it looks like it's going to be either the 15th and the 16th, or the 16th and the 17th. So it's either going to be Popcast Movie Club on Monday and then Q&A on Tuesday, or Q&A on Sunday and Popcast Movie Club on Monday. So stay tuned for more information on that. It's coming in the very near future. Josie does get the last word. As always, love the cinematography and production design. The score was pretty cool. The Viking lore was so fascinating. Cool. Nice. That's your show. Thanks, everyone, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Josie. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, everyone that was lurking in chat that didn't say anything, but we appreciate you watching nonetheless. Thank you for continuing to view everything here on the Popcast Network, including this brand new segment that we're having a blast doing. And if you didn't watch Moving Violations, go check it out. And get ready to check out Sleuth in 2 weeks for Popcast Movie Club episode 3. And who knows, maybe I'll have some news of a different sort by that time. So fingers crossed.
Also remember, at the start of the episode in 2 weeks, that'll be when AJ and Owen put it, and the vote will run through while we talk about Sleuth as well.
Yep. Absolutely. We'll both pick one, and at the end of the show, we'll find out what the one is going to be for the week after. So 2 weeks later after that. So yeah, every 2 weeks here on the network. So once again, Ashley's videos are going to be coming very soon. He's got some snack stashes I'll be putting up momentarily within the next few days, and gaming content coming back to the network sooner rather than later. And of course, follow him on Twitter at AshIsMyNameUK. AJ cannot be found on social media, and just like Keith Richards, cannot be killed by conventional weapons. He also will come up with another answer, probably in about 3 years, for your questions and queries. So that's going to be coming up soon as well. Leave a comment, any of the podcast or any of the videos here. We'll get back to it. Follow me on Twitter at SirOwenDisney, and I've got a lot more, very much content coming out. Water Parks is going. I talked about High Def, talked about the kitty shirt, talked about Funeral Grey coming out very soon. Yeah, I got Water Parks videos to put up. That's going to be coming up soon. More Voices of Liberty, more Sippin' Snacks, more various content still to come on the network. And thanks everyone for joining us tonight, whether live or an archive. And until next time, boys and girls, that's all we got to say about that.